Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Crimson Crossover podcast presented by the Field of 68. I'm your host, Christian Sykes, joined as always by Charles Branch and Joey Blackwell and Michael Harper. Now, this is the first time the four of us have been on a podcast together this season. Last week I was dealing with a sinus infection, still recovering a little bit, but good enough to be able to talk to you guys. And then Joey, I think you went to Disney the week before, and then Michael, obviously your football season, so you were able to join us after that. How you guys doing? It's a Saturday evening, not typical recording time for us, watching some football, talking football. How you guys doing on this Saturday?
Yes, everything we say, keep an asterisk by it when we're talking rankings and other stuff, because we're recording this on a Saturday evening, so things can and will change between now and when you're probably listening to this. But I'm interested to see how this goes on a Saturday night. But that shows our dedication, and hopefully Alabama will, get us at least a couple of wins this next week and show their dedication as well.
Yeah, I said early on in this our preseason podcast, I was, trying to be really realistic about the 3 game stretch we just finished, and here we are. We're 2-1 out of that stretch. Never really would have thought we'd be 2-1, and then all credit to the staff, Coach Oates, the players. I'm having more fun watching Alabama basketball than I feel like I've had, in a couple years, and that may even include the Final Four team. That was a fun team to watch, obviously with the run, and I do feel like they played hard, but it's really nice watching these guys play together, how fast they're playing, how smart they're playing, taking care of the ball and stuff like that. And that's clearly going to be on full display in these couple games that we've got at the Players Era. But it's a great time to be watching Alabama basketball and supporting the team.
And we're coming upon the honestly outside of the outside of the conference tournament week and the NCAA tournament, starting of the NCAA tournament, we've got the next best, in my opinion, week of college basketball with Feast Week. It's just going to be when you combine that with all the college football, and then with all the family and Thanksgiving stuff we have. Man, this should be a great and fun week, not just for Alabama basketball, but just for the sport in general.
Absolutely, and we'll get to talking about Feast Week and Players Era in Alabama and their upcoming matchups. They'll have 3 games this week. We don't know the third opponent, but we'll face Gonzaga first on Monday night, and then you'll face UNLV hopefully Tuesday night, but it might be Wednesday morning by the time if there's any overtime or anything going on. But before we do that, I do want to talk about the Alabama Illinois game. Alabama goes up to Chicago to the United Center, beats Illinois, who is ranked eighth at the time. That's important for some. Ranked eighth at the time, 90 to 86. In a game that, like, for Alabama, I think it was one of those games that you responded to a lot of the criticism that you were getting about the rebounding. You get Keaton Bristow back, who's absolutely massive in that department, and just kind of the effort that he brings. And then on top of that, like, Alabama was able to answer the bell to a lot of what Illinois was doing. They did a lot of different defensive matchups to kind of disrupt what Illinois was doing in the second half. I'm pretty sure they held them scoreless for 8 minutes in the first half. You played excellent defense for a large part of 33 minutes. And then offensively, anytime that I'm sorry, anytime that Illinois hits you in the mouth with something, Alabama responded. Illinois gets out to a 9 point lead early in that game. Alabama comes back. And then they extend the lead right at the end, right before the 4 minute final 4 minute timeout, and then Illinois comes back to that, and then Alabama responds late with free throws. It was a really good game for Alabama. They pick up their second top 10 win out of 3 matchups that they've had. And like Charles said, you feel pretty good going into this final stretch of this 4 game kind of difficult stretch for Alabama. 2-1 with an opportunity to pick up another quality win versus Gonzaga. What are your guys' thoughts on the Illinois game for Alabama?
Well, welcome to Tuscaloosa, Keaton Bristow. I'll start with that. Incredible showing by him. Just overall, just a really solid game. I will say I think that At this point, I'm resting easy on turnovers. I know that's going to still be kind of up in the air, but so far we've really, I think, shown that we are much better at controlling the ball and handling it than we have been in previous years. Just 10 in this game. I do think also, we did lose the rebounding battle by 2, but at the same time, we improved. We had 10 offensive rebounds. We had a lot more effort and a lot of guys driving under the basket when the ball was up in the air. And just overall, really just impressed by the overall effort from this team. Like you said, Christian, they were down 9 early, but were able to come back and hang around in it. I think we were only down by 1 at halftime and just really just kept the foot on the gas the entire game. We really didn't let up. And previously we've seen guys miss shots and, it gets to them. We didn't see that at all. No matter how well somebody was shooting or how well they were defending, or if things went wrong, we still saw that effort keep going throughout. So obviously a big win, great to get it at a neutral site in Chicago. This is a win that I think is going to look really good for this team once we get around to Selection Sunday in March.
One thing you said earlier, Christian, that I was really impressed with was the way we responded, the way Alabama responded to every punch that Illinois threw. There was a period where Illinois went on a small run. I don't remember what the numbers were, but it really got the crowd going. It was after the Stojakovic dunk, which was really impressive. And but Alabama didn't bat an eye at all. Just grabbed the ball out of the net and pushed it up the floor. Got it quick, got to the rim quick, and got fouled. And it killed any momentum that Illinois had going. So to me, what was impressive the most is that every time Illinois started to get something going, the crowd got really into it. With at the neutral site, Alabama responded with a 3 or getting to the rim, getting a layup, drawing a foul, something. Just a really impressive performance from that standpoint.
So the first thing I learned after the game was if you're the team that you support colors are orange and blue, that means you're a whiny fan. I'm looking at you, Auburn, as well. Second thing that I learned is, man, Keaton Bristow is going to be a huge piece of this team and really need him to stay healthy the rest of the year because it's not just the rebounds he got, but obviously the activity to get deflections and make it difficult if Illinois is in position to get an offensive rebound, that you're getting it and it's contested. You can't immediately go back up with it. And of course, Amari Allen having another game where he got double-digit rebounds. And I do feel like Illinois crashed the glass a little bit more, so it allowed some of our guys to be a little bit more involved on the rebounding side than what we saw against Purdue when they could just rely on Oscar Clough and TKR and some of that. Thought the defense made Illinois very one-dimensional in the second half. It was Stojakovic. It was Boswell trying to get to the rim. Wasn't a whole lot of ball movement. Still, whether you like it, the calls or not, you agree with them or not, still too much fouling for my liking. Given a team like Illinois, even though they didn't make a lot of them, you sent Illinois to the free throw line for 15 attempts in the last 12 minutes of the game. Just got to be able to play defense without fouling. But again, going back to the first half, Illinois came into the game plus 89 in the first half through the first 4 games they played, and they were up 13 against Texas Tech early in the season. So you took a big punch from them. You were down 9, but you continued to fight. And like y'all said, and like we know, at halftime, it was a 1-point game. And I think that was very critical for this game, that you were able to keep it close and then continue to wear them down and lean on them, where you finally got over the hump, got an early lead in the second half, and never gave it back up the rest of the game. A guy who's really starting to emerge in late game situations is Taylor Bowen. In all 3 games against St. John's, Purdue, and Illinois, he has had big plays on both the offensive and the defensive side. And of course, LeBaron Philon has been right there making big shots and getting to the rim and making tough baskets. We missed a lot of threes that I feel like we typically make. We finished the game at 36% from the three-point line. I think the total number was 13 of 36. If we ever have a game that we shoot 40% from three, which we know it's coming, it's going to happen. But whatever game that is, I don't see how that team beats us because of how much more active we are on the defensive side, how we are generating more turnovers on the defensive side. And then if you can get sustained rebounding effort, not just from Amari Allen and Keaton Bristow, but everybody else as well, I just don't see another team that can score with us if we're going to be that hot from the three-point line in a future game, shooting over 40%. So a great night in Chicago. I know the guys really happy, of course, and it's funny. I think Amari Allen won the hard hat, and you would have thought Keaton Bristow won the hard hat with his play as well. And that's things that you like to see. That maybe it was a surprise hard hat winner because you would have thought Bristow got it, and that means both guys were playing really, really hard. So great to be 2-1 through this stretch. And now we do have two difficult games. Gonzaga is obviously going to be difficult, but I think UNLV is going to be difficult too. And I know we're going to get into that a little bit more here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, and I don't think that we should take for granted what LeBaron Philon did in this game. It really made me question. Like I know in the offseason last year when LeBaron says that he's leaving and Alabama's kind of searching. Desmond Claude is a guy that Alabama tries to get on campus and maybe get in the fold. Cedric Coward is another one that ultimately he went to the NBA and is super successful in the NBA. But like I don't know where this team would be if LeBaron Philon wasn't on it. And I think that Alabama would probably have struggled. Maybe we're talking about this Alabama team being 0-3 in this three-game stretch or 1-2. Like LeBaron, the ability for him to go and get his shot when he needs to get it. He starts out slow. He started out slow in this game. He only had 9 points in I think in the first half and then picks it up and gets 15 in the second half, nine straight to basically end the game for Alabama. Like he's a difference maker on this team, and I don't think it could be overstated how important he is for this Alabama team moving forward, and if they want to win a national championship, which it looks like Alabama has an opportunity to. I'm not saying they're going to, right? But it feels like this team has at least an opportunity or a chance to put their name in the hat to win a national championship.
The team that ended up being number one overall seed, I remember Seth Green talking about Alabama just had two of everything, just with the depth that we had. And I know starting doesn't necessarily matter. It's about who's on the floor, but just let's use the starting lineup from the game against Illinois of Reitzel, Philon, Holloway, Bull Bowen, and Aiden Sherrill. Well, that means your guys that are coming off the bench are Amari Allen, Houston Millette, Keaton Bristow now. And we still haven't been able to talk about Jaleel Bethia's play because he hasn't been available yet. I mean, that's four really solid guys, at least three solid guys we know of, and what we believe to be a fourth in Bethia. That that depth is really starting to come together. That if you have somebody who's off a little bit, you have somebody that you can get in their spot and really shouldn't miss a whole lot as far as what they can give to the team or miss a step as far as, just being able to continue to play the pace that we want to play.
Yeah, and not even to mention like Jaleel Bethia is a 40% three-point shooter last season, or should be a 40% three-point shooter. I know he played in a bad Miami team. And you're adding another shooter to this offense that already has what, five or six guys that are going to shoot 35 plus percent from three. It's amazing the quality of offensive skill set that Alabama has. And Jaleel Bethia was a guy that was projected in the top five pick last year preseason before obviously that didn't happen. I don't know if Alabama's going to get, that type of guy. Like I would be kind of shocked if Jaleel Bethia comes in and is immediately like, oh, I'm a top five prospect in the NBA lottery. Like Alabama's winning the national championship if that's the case. But just a quality guy that can come in, give you minutes, provide shooting, and another ball handler for Alabama. Because I do think one thing that kind of gives me pause with this Alabama team is the ball handling, and not necessarily turnovers and being able to facilitate the ball, but having a guy that can kind of control the offense when LeBaron Philon's out of the game and Aiden Holloway maybe isn't on 100%, Alabama tends to struggle a little bit offensively with initiating the offense. And I think the hope is that Jalil Bethia can come in and kind of provide more of that initiation for Alabama, in my opinion. All right. Well, I think that's enough about Illinois. We kind of debriefed everything with the space and all of that. So if you guys want to check that out, it's on my Twitter account. Um, let's talk about the Players Era. Alabama opens the Players Era with Gonzaga, then UNLV, and then a, a surprise mystery opponent for the third game. Charles, you had an opportunity to talk about Gonzaga with someone from Gonzaga. Talk about kind of that interview, and then your thoughts on the Gonzaga team.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk to Andy Patton, which that episode's coming out Monday morning, so make sure to give that a listen. Andy's not only on the podcast Locked on Zags, he's also on Locked on College Basketball. So he's very familiar with Alabama's team. He's very familiar with college basketball. From our perspective going into this game, we've seen what Gonzaga's done against Creighton and Oklahoma and Arizona State, and they've looked really, really good. I think there is a question, though, of how much have they really been tested in those games. Creighton's now, I can't remember the player that's out for the season now for Creighton, but they've lost somebody, kind of questionable to see what Oklahoma is going to be this year. But that still doesn't take away that Gonzaga is going to be a team that's probably going to compete for a top four seed in a region at some point, and definitely has aspirations not just to get to the second weekend, but to get to another Final Four and finally win a national championship for Mark Few. Graham Ike and Braden Huff really lead their team. They got several guys that can lead the team, but as far as guys that I think could give us some issues because of their size, it starts with Ike and Huff, both averaging around 15 points per game. Ike a little bit more. Ike is also a guy who can step out by the 3-point line. He's hitting about 44% from three. Oh, and he's also a guy that's almost averaging a double-double because he's averaging 9.2 rebounds a game as well. So being able to have enough bodies and making sure that Alabama does not send him to the free throw line a lot as well, as you'll hear in our podcast. On cross court, Andy talks about that EK had a game where he got to the free throw line 15 times and made 13 of them. So got to limit not only his points, but the opportunity to give him free points. The guy that I'm most intrigued about is the guy we saw 2 years ago at Grand Canyon and Tyon Grant Foster. He's not a guy who shoots it well from the outside, but he does a great job being physical and getting to the rim. And I feel like we sent him to the foul line a lot in that Grand Canyon game. And then you also got Adam Miller, who's a guard who was originally at Illinois. He's now at Gonzaga. And of course, they've got other guys, whether it's transfers, whether it's freshmen. It's your typical Gonzaga team. They've got scorers, they've got guys that can shoot. And it's going to be a fast-paced game. It's going to probably be something like first team to 100 is going to win. So when you have an opportunity to get a stop, get it. Don't give up a second chance point. Take care of the ball. But I think it depending on, obviously we're waiting for rankings to come out Monday. I kind of expect Gonzaga to be our fourth straight top 10 opponent. If not, they're going to be, 11 or 12. And so it's going to be probably the top game of the Players Era's first day of the tournament. And not only is it a good measuring stick for them, but I think it's a continued good measuring stick for us with the success that we have had. And you have a little bit to celebrate that Illinois win. Can you continue to keep your head and can you continue to do the things that you got to do? Because as we talked about last year with the Players Era, you're not just playing to win basketball games and playing to win a tournament. You're winning to put some money in your pocket as well. So be great, obviously, to get off to a good start and beating Gonzaga because it would be a resume win for either team, whoever comes out victorious on Monday night.
Yeah, I think one interesting aspect for this game that a lot of people aren't talking about, and for the UNLV game, is Alabama's played the North Dakota game at home. They play the Purdue game at home. You play St. John's Madison Square Garden, which is an away game. You play Chicago, or you play Illinois and Chicago, which is essentially an away game. You're going to play Gonzaga in Las Vegas, which is going to be in an away game, and then you're playing UNLV in Las Vegas, which is going to be an away game. Like I know that the Players Era is going to be classified as a neutral site when it comes to like net rankings, but as far as like quality and type of crowd that you're going to have, like you're going to be in away environments, and this Alabama team seems to play much better in away environments than they do in home environments because I think it's because Alabama wants to try to prove a point, and so I'm excited to see how the guys respond yet to another difficult opponent. Nate Oates is a madman for making this schedule, but it obviously seems to be working for Alabama. So I'm excited to see this Gonzaga game. Last time we played Gonzaga was a absolutely great game. Alabama, I think, won by like double digits. And then that was the same. Was that the same game as the Georgia SEC championship game? It was like
Yes.
the same day, like in the Gonzaga game, or in was it in the
It
Georgia
ended
game?
it ended the Georgia game, and then we beat Gonzaga in Seattle, and
Yeah.
then the next year though is when we lost in Birmingham.
Yep. Yep.
It's a
Joey
great day to be a
Michael.
great day to be a fan, terrible day to be a sports writer.
And what I remember from that game in Birmingham, I think Gonzaga scored over 100 points in that game as well. We got Gonzaga into a lot of shots that we typically want to put teams in. It was at the elbow, it was at the free throw line, it was mid-range jumpers, and Gonzaga, I think, was like 75% in the second half on those 2-point shots. So that might be something of interest to watch is are we able to put Gonzaga in difficult shots, or is it what we believe are difficult shots for Gonzaga? It's just running their offense, and then of course the success they have in making those shots as well.
Just two quick things to point out, just really quick. Obviously, Charles, you covered most of it, but I'd like to point out that this is an experienced team. They have several senior starters on, a junior, and outside of Braden Smith, who's 6 foot, their shortest guy in their typical starting lineup is 6'5". So they have some decent length to them, including, of course, Graham Ike 6'9". You have Braden Huff, who's I think 6'10". So you're going to have length, you're going to have experience. But that being said, we've seen in years past, that'd be something that would concern me a little bit because we all remember that San Diego State game a couple of years ago at the KFC Yum Center. But I think we've seen this Alabama team does have a little bit more experience under its belt than we have seen the past couple of years. But in addition to that, we've seen them respond a lot better to experienced teams. So the height might be a little bit more of an issue, but we've seen that, once again, this team has played some pretty tall teams and they've been pretty versatile in how they've adjusted the lineup to it. So just two little quick things that I wanted to point out. Charles got all the juicy stuff out of the way.
Michael, you have any thoughts on Gonzaga?
So I think obviously pace is always going to be a key, and again, like I don't have the KenPom numbers in front of me on what Gonzaga's pace is, but I know in years past, few has never had an issue going back and forth. Go ahead, Joey.
Gonzaga is 67th in pace.
Okay, so
the same as Illinois.
Yeah, so they're not going to try to slow it down like Purdue did. They're going to welcome that pace. So this team does a really good job. This team being Alabama does a really good job of staying in our pace, forcing teams to play our game. Even Purdue, when they tried to slow it down, we did a good job of still continuing to force it. Force our pace, not force bad passes or anything. Just continue with our pace. So to me, that's a key. And then just what we always say is rebounding, continuing to rebound. There's no major special thing to me with this game. We've just got to keep playing our game. As simple as that sounds.
Yeah, I really did like how Alabama was trying to maybe force the issue a little bit with their pace. I think at the beginning of the Illinois game, maybe we were playing a little chaotically. It looked like a team that had just gotten forced to play out of their pace and they wanted to try to prove that they could play at the speed that they wanted to. But as the game got settled in and Alabama kind of settled in, they played at I think a very good pace and played within kind of what they wanted to do. I'm excited to see another high level matchup. Um, Knowing what we have on the horizon with the Arizona team that's likely going to be the number one team in the country when we face them. I'm excited to kind of see um, what we're going to do this week. Hopefully, we can get a first MTE win since 2012 versus what was that? Oh, what did you say? It was Villanova and Oregon
Yeah.
State.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, it was up in Madison Square Garden. But Charles, let's get quick thoughts on a UNLV team that has a former Alabama player on the roster.
So Alabama has definitely been tested physically this year as far as the talent that you've actually had to play on the floor. I think this is the biggest mental test for this Alabama team because this is obviously the first team that you're playing off of playing those four teams that are basically in the top 10. And it's right after playing Gonzaga. It's basically the next day. It's the last day of that game. It's going to be midnight madness for Christian. Hopefully it's not 1 a.m. madness for you like you started off with. And UNLV is going to play fast. They're averaging 94 points a game. They're trying to get the ball up and down. Their Ken Pom tempo's at 17 right now. And so they know this is a great opportunity for them. And like you said, it's going to be a home game for them. It's not the Thomas and Mack Center where you get 18,000. And as you'll hear on our cross court episode for UNLV, there's been a little bit of a waning in UNLV support since you now got more professional teams in the Las Vegas area. But this is still a great opportunity for them. I think you're going to have a lot more UNLV fans coming out there to watch them take on Alabama. I think they're very, very excited for this game. Um, and they're going to try to push the tempo. They're not as good of a three-point shooting team as us. They only hit about 28%. And they also like to foul a lot, but we also like to foul a lot. And I think that's going to be really key for the game as well, is that if it becomes a foul fest between both teams, well, I kind of expect UNLV to stay in the game if that's the case. I think Alabama needs it to be a game that's called loosely and to get up and down the floor because UNLV also averages about 14 turnovers a game right now. And we've seen what we've been able to do as far as forcing teams into turnovers as well. So if we don't go the way of UNLV and match them on the turnover side, I see a path where we should be able to win this game comfortably. But all that said, I'm concerned about it because of where it falls on the schedule, not only just being the second game of a multi-team event and being back to back, but a game that could be very much overlooked, especially if you beat Gonzaga, thinking that we got this game in the bag. We're on our way to go, playing for $1 million or a large sum of money, whatever game that we're in. For that final day of the Players Era. You mentioned Nas Cunningham. I think they're very excited about Nas. They know he's got a lot of raw talent. He's very long. I was told he struggled with his mid-range jump shot. That didn't surprise me at all, just knowing what typically goes on with our offense. But he's also struggling with his three-point shot as well. I think he's below 20%, but he's obviously going to be fired up. And I expect some of our guys to be fired up too, playing against him, like LeBaron, like both the Aidens and all that. So, I'm excited about this game as well too because I think it's another one that you're going to get tested a lot differently than maybe what you've been tested against those other top opponents we've seen this year.
Look, this is the first winnable game, or first should be a win game for Alabama since the North Dakota game. Um, I'm not saying that Alabama will win, but Alabama should win this game. From my understanding, Nas Cunningham was a guy that lit up Alabama sometimes at practice last year. Was really good defensively. A lot of people were clamoring for him to play a little bit, but he's definitely going to be motivated playing against this Alabama team. I wouldn't expect anything less. Um, but it's a game that Alabama should win, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. it's going to be hellish for me and for you guys because it's going to be most likely, it's probably going to be like a 1 a.m. game because some game's going to go into overtime. And um, I will let everyone know right now, we are not doing a space following the UNLV game. I will tell you guys that right now. But I'm excited to maybe get one of these winnable or should be win games for Alabama. Maybe it'll relax the guys a little bit, and hopefully you're coming off a big win versus Gonzaga, and you're potentially playing that third game for if Alabama wins the UNLV game, playing that third game for the $1 million pot. I think is what the winner gets for the tournament.
The I think the biggest concern, like Charles said, for that UNLV game is can you learn like can you play that game and not be bored, right? Just because you're coming off of four straight top 10 games. So can you have the right mindset and say, okay, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do here, no matter who the opponent is, right? You're going to have a scouting report. You're going to have, you're going to know who you're playing and you're going to have a game plan, but you almost have to treat that one like a nameless, faceless opponent, right? And you've got to make that game about us and not about the name on the other jersey. And you're going to have a situation, or you could have a situation if we beat Gonzaga, where we need to win big, because of the way the tournament's formatted. So you may have to bring your A game in that if you want to win money.
That kind of goes hand in hand with what I was going to say. I think that Monday's outcome will probably impact how they play on Tuesday. If you lose that Gonzaga game, I think we're going to see a team come out here, like you said, that's going to have to, knock some socks off of people. I hope that's not what happens. I hope obviously they win, but even if they lose, I hope it doesn't take that for them to play with the effort we've seen. I hope that we don't see a drop off there. Overall, I did want to point out, Charles, forgive me if you mentioned Isaac Williamson earlier, but I did want to highlight him. He's a true freshman for them that's played 3 games, that's quickly become a starter. He started 2 games. Overall, he's shooting 48% from the floor, 46% from beyond the arc. He's averaging 17 points a game. So even though he hasn't played very much, he's averaging 27 minutes a game in those 3 games he's played. He's been a solid player for them. So I just wanted to point out, since we wanted to highlight just a couple of players outside of Nas Cunningham, that he's a really solid shooter for them. And look for him to, if UNLV has an impact player, look for him to be one of those impact guys.
And we keep talking about the mental side of this and the maturity for our team. And watching our games, like, it's hard to believe that we are a team that's got 4 true freshmen and has 4 sophomores, 4 true sophomores. Like, we've been a team, at least on the floor, that seems to play like a team that's got a ton of experience, just how we take care of the ball and seem to value every possession. So again, it's a little bit of a different challenge as far as, are you mature enough to lock in for the scouting report of UNLV in a 24-hour period? Are you mature enough to approach the game the right way? Because I've liked our starts this year. I've liked how we've started games. We did not start games well last year with 4 fifth-year seniors. We never started games well last year. So it's something else to watch, I feel like, as an Alabama fan in this game against UNLV, of understanding where is this team. Not just that they're good on the floor, but you can start counting on them every night, no matter who they're playing against.
Well, also it's something to look at for the future is how are you gonna play against a team on a neutral floor, that you should beat, because you're going to see that in March in the first round. Are you gonna sleepwalk early through a game and risk getting upset? So I know that's a little bit extreme, but it's kind of a test for that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Super excited about that game. Obviously, we have a third game that we don't know who we're playing, and we also don't know what time, whether that's Wednesday or Thursday if Alabama's playing. I do want to make one point about Alabama, which is this will be the first time since the opening weekend that Alabama has faced two or more teams in 1 week. Alabama, you played Purdue, and you had a week off or 8 days off, and then you play Illinois after the St. John's game. Like, I think that the way that Nate Oates and Adam Ballman kind of set this up was allow Alabama to focus on these big key matchups. One game, you have a week, you can focus on the other game. Now you're getting into a situation where Alabama, you have to refocus yourself after one day. I do bring that up as a potential concern for Alabama as far as just how the schedule. I don't think that it's an issue, but it could be something to watch for with Alabama with how they're starting and what happens in this second game of the Players Era, since Alabama really hasn't had to face multiple opponents in a given week, and now you're having to do two or three back to back, or with 1 day's rest with the final game.
And that could be something to watch out for with the first half shooting versus UNLV. Is how are the legs? Are the legs under you? Because one thing to look at that is we haven't shot the ball great in the second half compared to how we've shot the ball in the first half, and that's which is normal, just because you're still getting in game shape, but because it's this early in the season, is it possible that you're not shooting the ball as well in the first half against UNLV because of the potential tough Gonzaga game, and also the difference in the time that you're playing as well?
Absolutely. As far as our schedule is concerned for next week, we will have a post game space following the Gonzaga game. We will not have a post game space following the UNLV game and following the third game as well, just because of holidays and things like that. We might do a recap space on Sunday, or we might just leave it to a podcast. But we'll have this podcast out, just kind of previewing everything, and then we'll recap the Gonzaga game. Charles, you have the Gonzaga podcast coming out on Monday. You have the UNLV podcast coming out on Tuesday. I don't think we're doing a third podcast this week on cross
Do,
court.
will do my very best, but very, very unlikely since we don't know who we're playing, so I don't know who to reach out to as of yet. So we'll try, but we'll see.
And
Just
then
grab some. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just grab somebody random and pretend that they're
Yeah, yeah.
they cover that team.
We'll just get them in an NCAA shirt or a Players Era shirt, and they can support whoever we're playing. Which, before we get into everything that we're doing at Crimson Crossover and all that, I want to talk about Feast Week and just these multi-team events, because Players Era is something that is still relatively new. I understand why we're doing it. I think it's important that we're doing it. But I know Bill Self at Kansas made a lot of comments about the Maui Invitational and how much it messes up your team going out to Maui. It's a really poor field for the Maui Invitational this year. And I'm one as a college basketball fan, like I still want all these other multi-team events to be good. I still want to see Alabama eventually go back out to Maui sometime or go to the Battle for Atlantis. Or, as I've been praying for decades now, can we get the Great Alaskan Shootout back and send the team up to Anchorage? But my question, I guess, for the group is, do we think those other multi-team events are going to get their act together and get into the NIL field? And if you weren't playing in the Players Era, what is the multi-team event that you'd like to see Alabama in the future?
I don't think Alabama's not playing in the Players Era, if I'm being honest, going forward, unless some other multi-team event does something, like the NIL. Just knowing how the NIL landscape is specifically for Alabama and basketball, like it's tough to say we don't want $2 million. Like, that's a what 25% most likely of the total budget for basketball NIL. I wish you could go back to Maui. I would love to actually go play in Maui. I think the one time that Alabama was in the Maui Invitational, um, it got moved to Asheville.
Asheville.
And then I also like the PK tournaments, the Phil Knight invitationals that they do every 5 years. I hope that they continue to do that. I think that's a special type of tournament that like Alabama, I think should be involved in, especially being a Nike team.
Joey, Michael, any thoughts on where you'd like to see Alabama if the other ones get their NIL game figured out?
Uh, Maui's always fun. I mean, it really always is always fun to watch, and you usually you can tell how a team's going to go, how a team season's going to go based on how they do. If you look at most Maui champions or even finalists, they usually tend to have a really good season, just because you're playing against such a loaded field. But I think if Maui is going to continue to be a big name tournament, they're going to have to get in the NIL field.
Yeah.
What I would like to see happen, just from a MTE standpoint, is for the Players Era, instead of doing how they're doing it with a 24, I think they're talking about expanding it to 32, just making it multiple tournaments instead of just one tournament with using a soccer format. I'd rather them just make it multiple tournaments and have different levels. And then they can still use some kind of NIL. I don't know. That may not be financially possible, but just I'm not a big fan of the way this Players Era format is. I'm kind of an old school guy that wants a regular tournament bracket in the MTEs. So, but as far as if you just take the NIL out of it, Maui would be number one, and then I kind of like the Atlantis.
Yeah.
I like the Battle for Atlantis tournament. I always think that's fun. I think it's fun to watch teams play in the small ballroom, of the Atlantis hotel.
Yeah, John Petty liked Battle for Atlantis too. I remember him typically going off when he went out there. If you throw NIL out of it, I'd say bring back the Phil Knight Invitational. I always really liked that tournament. It was always one of my favorites. It's a shame Bama didn't play in it more, but I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I mean, with NIL, I think it's not if, but when all these tournaments have, if they're going to want to survive, they're going to have to implement it into it. I really like you said, Michael, I really like the Battle for Atlantis. I think I do like Players Invitational, but I hate to sound like a broken record here. I do like a traditional tournament bracket. I like if you're a champion, you are actually the tournament champion. You didn't just happen to, get lucky and maybe play a team that happened to have a hot streak, and went cold. So I always like that traditional bracket style instead of group play and random, assignments to that final game. So overall, I mean, that's pretty much just my 2 cents there. I think it's unavoidable. They're going to have to implement NIL. I think the Players Era has done a great job at kind of being a test, being one of the first ones out there to kind of test this new format. But hopefully we'll be maybe going to Maui and having some surfboards being held at midcourt in a couple of years here.
So I just saw, the Players Era Invitational mailing address is for New York, New York. And I would have thought, it'd be based in Las Vegas since that's where all these games are. I wonder if there's ever an opportunity where they start buying up like Battle for Atlantis or Maui Invitational. They're the one to infuse the capital into it, the NIL. And it's, Maui Gym, Maui Invitational, brought to you by Players Era or whatever it's got to be, how they figure it out. But if they're going to get 32 teams in it, Michael, I agree. It needs to be multiple mini team tournaments. And maybe that helps you get on a rotational schedule to some of these, more recognized MTE events that we just all rattled off. And of course, they could probably build up, what's done in New York, where you used to have the preseason NIT tournament. And I know the Jimmy V Classic is typically not part of the MTE Feast Week, but bringing that into it as well. So that is something as me as a college basketball fan, I would like to see. Nothing against Las Vegas, nothing against what they're doing, but I still want to see these brand tournaments that we've grown up with for a long time continue to have their place early on in the college basketball season.
Yeah, one thing I will say, and I think maybe it was John Rothstein or someone made a tweet about it today that I saw. Like, I do like the Players Era because it gives fans the accessibility to go watch their teams, and for teams, it's also cheaper, right? Like someone said. I think it was like when Kansas decided that they were going to go and join the Players Era. It's like, okay, do we go get seven figures for playing in Vegas, right? And the cost of flights and hotels and stuff are significantly cheaper than going out to Hawaii or going out to the Bahamas or wherever they're playing. Like that's a six-figure sal or a six-figure travel budget for a team when you're not making anything. Like it's a very easy decision for an athletic department and for a basketball team to say, hey, we'll just go to Vegas. We'll go, get a flight that's cheap. Hotels are typically pretty cheap in in Vegas, and they're the travel budget, their travel allotment for that's a lot cheaper. And also we're getting $1 million to go play here. Like it just makes a lot of sense. Um, and then for fans, like it's a lot easier for fans to go to Vegas than it is for fans to go to Hawaii. It's a lot easier for fans to go to Vegas than it is to go to Bahamas, and all of these things. And so I feel like for fan involvement, like it's a much better experience. Um, it just kind of sucks that these traditional MTEs are kind of going by the wayside just because of, the money involved. But I enjoy that fans are able to actually go and watch these games and watch these teams. Um, all right. Well, other than that, we have a blue collar podcast coming out. I think I would assume at some point. I'm not entirely sure the schedule would be either be on Sunday or Monday. We have the Tide Machine for football will be coming out, I think, on Black Friday. The M3 show that'll be coming out this week. Either it'll be coming out on Wednesday. We have a podcast with Chris Stewart that we probably are going to be doing separately, just because of timing. That will also be coming out this week for the M3 show. We just released the golf adjacent podcast. Cannon talked about, making to the DP or the Hotel Planner Tour, which is the DP World Tour Corn Ferry. And then we have this going on with the spaces, and Michael has got his Harper Breaks Down XO, where he's breaking down game film. I assume that you're going to be doing that throughout the week,
Yeah.
when time is allotted for you as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've already broken down about three different sets that we ran against Illinois. And I'll have another one tonight probably. And every day throughout the week.
Yep. Other than that, be sure to like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are, what I think last I checked, 26 subscribers away from 500. Our goal this year is to get 1,000, and that's pretty crazy to kind of expect us to double, but that's kind of the goal for the season. So if you like what we're doing at Crimson Crossover, we haven't even had the baseball podcast started back up yet. We're trying to give you guys as much content for Alabama fans as possible. So if you like what we're doing, subscribe, like the video, leave comments. Would love to hear from you. Other than that, we will talk again soon, and roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Well,
Roll Tide.